Hello everybody, my name is Connor and today we are diving headfirst into the premiere episode of Gaming Retrospective, where each week I pick a game to talk about and review. I spent a while trying to figure out what game I wanted to review first. I was thinking about games I completed recently, but I finally settled on the complete opposite of that. I decided that for the first episode I should review the first game I ever played, Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. Back in the day, I got my first experience of Sonic from the Sega 6-pack, a collection of the best games the Genesis had to offer. The other games on the cartridge didn't get much love from me though. I only ever played Streets of Rage and Columns every once in a while, and the only other game I had besides the 6-pack was Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures, so you can't really blame me for only playing Sonic. I ended up getting Sonic 1 and 2 standalone from a retro game store a while back. I actually got the version that came bundled with the system with the not for resale sticker.
Not for sale. No, excuse me. Not for release. Oh, sorry. Not for resale.
I put so much time into this game, but I wasn't a professional Sonic player overnight. A large amount of the time I couldn't get past the third act of Marble Zone. I'm pretty sure this was a universal experience because I've heard so many stories about people talking about their struggles with this level. Now let's talk about Sega's obsession with this game. They've re-released this game on pretty much anything with a screen. I mean, I'm sure in a couple years they're going to come out with Sonic 1 for the Samsung Smart Fridge, but yeah, pretty much every system has this game. One of the most famous ports of the game, one that I actually got a little bit after the Genesis version, was the famous Game Boy Advanced port. Crazily enough, I managed to get past Marble Zone on this version despite it being the literal worst port of the game. The screen is comically zoomed in to where you can't see anything around you and the music is absolutely ear-piercing. The Game Boy could barely run this game because the game consistently experienced frame issues, yet I was glued to this game. I'd break out my brother's SpongeBob Game Boy Advance and put hours into it. I'm just gonna take a brief second and pause and show you some gameplay of this game. I mean, look at this. This is absolutely terrible. Later on, we ended up getting Sonic Mega Collection Plus for the PlayStation 2. This was a much better experience. It was also where I was able to experience all of the other 2D Sonic games like Sonic 2, Sonic 3D Blast, and the best 2D Sonic experience, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Aside from that, I have Sonic 1 on pretty much every single console I own. It's sort of like a comfort game for me now. Even though I have such an attachment to this game, I still can be unbiased about it. There are many positive and negative things about this game, and I'm about to get into them. Sonic 1 is the most bare-bones Sonic experience you could have. The only playable character is Sonic, and Sonic's moveset's pretty basic. You can move around with the D-pad, use A to jump. You could also roll into a ball to defeat enemies and pick up speed. This was before later entries added the spin dash or any special abilities like the insta-shield in Sonic 3 and the drop dash in Sonic Mania. It does make the game feel a bit slower paced compared to later entries, but the game still plays pretty well. The game is split up by 6 zones: Green Hill, Marble, Spring Yard, Labyrinth, Starlight, and Scrap Brain. Each zone is split up by 3 acts, with one act being the easiest and Act 3 being the hardest. The first zone, Green Hill, is one of the most iconic levels in video game history. If you've never played a Sonic game before, you would probably still recognize it. The art style and color in this zone is amazing and the music is iconic. This level also does a terrific job introducing the core mechanics of the game. New players can be more cautious and take the level slowly to learn the mechanics, and more experienced players can speed through all 3 acts. There's not much more to say, it's the blueprint for what it takes to be a great Sonic level. Sega set the bar high with this zone, and most believe the zones that follow fail to reach Green Hill's level of quality. The next level to follow up with is Marble Zone, which is one of the most overhated Sonic levels because it spikes the difficulty a lot compared to Green Hill Zone. Like I was saying, when I was younger I had trouble with the platforming sections, but now they're not too bad. The main problem with this level is the level is slow paced and shouldn't be in a game like Sonic. You spend the majority of the level floating across lava pits on a green block, which really drags out the level. Once you get through Marble Zone, the game picks up a bit of speed. The next level is Spring Yard Zone, and this is my personal favorite level when I was younger. It was mainly because of the music, but the gameplay is still pretty good. There's a lot of half pipes and slopes to gain speed on, and there's small platforming sections to break up the pace. The boss for this level really stood out to me. I like the challenge of the platform getting smaller and smaller. I feel like it made the boss more challenging, especially when I was younger. After Spring Yard, you're met with Labyrinth Zone. Now before we get started, let's just say this zone tends to stir up some mixed feelings amongst fans. This level is the complete opposite of Green Hill Zone. It's an underwater maze where there is not one place to go fast. The water physics in this game make it feel like Sonic has a cinder block tied to his feet, and the enemy placement's very unforgiving. Sonic can't spend too much time underwater or else he'll drown, so you'll either have to go as fast as you can to get out, or pick up one of the giant air bubbles that are placed around the level. This was originally going to be the second level in the game, and I'm glad they changed it because I could see less people enjoying the game if the level was placed closer to the beginning. The boss in this level is also very unique. It's more of an obstacle course than a boss fight. You can actually beat the boss without hitting it 8 times. It's actually close to impossible to defeat him before getting to the top. If you're lucky enough to beat Labyrinth without getting a game over, you reach Starlight Zone, which is one of the most underrated zones in the game. This level has the most balanced mix between speed and platforming. It rewards players who take the upper path with fast-paced sections and punishes players who take the lower paths with the hardest platforming sections in the game. I don't think I've ever beaten this level taking the lower paths, but it's not too hard to stay up on the upper paths. The boss fight for this level is also really fun. It uses the seesaw mechanics showcased earlier in the level. You can use them to either hit Eggman with the spike balls or use them to launch you up to hit him. After Starlight Zone, you reach the final full zone in the game, Scrap Brain Zone. This level is very unforgiving with its enemy placement and platforming. There are pipes that will shoot fire at you, pistons that can crush you, and these weird siren-looking things that shoot electric. If you miss a platform, there's a good chance you'll fall into an enemy or a bottomless pit. The first act is a lot more challenging than the second act in my opinion. It's a lot more tame with its platforming, but there's a lot of conveyor belts and saws that are difficult to avoid. The second act even ends with a cutscene that takes you to the third act, Labyrinth Zone Act 4. This is the most challenging act in the game. Everything that made Labyrinth Zone challenging is back, but 20 times worse. The air bubbles take longer to come out, there's more enemies, and the platforming is way more difficult. The only saving grace is that there's a secret pathway that takes you right to the end of the level. I'll give you a demonstration on how easy this is. Once you clear the level, you get to the final zone, which is a final boss fight against Dr. Eggman. There's no rings in this level, but the boss fight is pretty straightforward. Dodge the electric and pistons and hit Eggman 8 times, and after that you pretty much complete the game. But you don't 100% it. To 100% it, you need to collect 50 rings in any of the first 2 acts excluding Scrap Brain to get access to a special stage. And in there you have to roll through a maze-type pinball level where there is a Chaos Emerald at the end. And once you get all 6 emeralds, you get the true ending of the game, which just changes the flowers and Eggman doesn't taunt you at the end. Overall, playing through this game is enjoyable and it only takes around an hour or so. It may not be the best in the series, but it still laid the groundwork for what it takes to be a Sonic game. If you've never played it, I recommend checking it out. I'm sure there's a version available on any platform, so the game isn't difficult at all to get. I'd give Sonic the Hedgehog an 8.5 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this retrospective and comment down below any games you want me to talk about next, and I'll see you guys in the next one.